The story begins in the hospital with a boy lying in bed as the leaves wilt and a petal falls on his face. The boy wakes up startled and immediately sits up. He's panting and asks himself where he is. At this moment, you already know that he's someone who's been reincarnated. He goes to pull off the sheet to check if his legs are okay. But no, the guy reincarnated without legs, they're just stumps. Now, angry, he asks what time it is when suddenly someone calls out for their brother. She cries emotionally, saying that he's finally awake and runs to give him a hug. She sars to him that she will find the person who hit him with a car and flood, and for sure his legs would be healed. The protagonist realizes that he's truly gone back 1 year in time. To the car accident he spun like a Beyblade and soared through the sky. That's when his life as a rising young billionaire ended. A girl ran to rescue Mr. Shen, but after that, he became a wheelchair user. Things only started to go wrong. From that moment on, someone enters the room and calls for Shenxing, the protagonist, with a desolate look. Calls for Tai Kai Chong. Kai says that his big brother brought some things for him to eat and recover. This was the person he trusted most in the world. His brother, someone he was very close to, named Xiao Tan Kei. But this guy took advantage of the moment when he was weak to take over the international group. He also used the protagonist's poor state of health to force his sister to marry him. Fortunately, this guy is a family friend, not a blood relative. He told the protagonist's sister that if she married him, her brother's future would be guaranteed and he would always pay for the hospital bills. Desperate, the protagonist tells him to let her go. But the poor guy was lying on the floor like a slug. Shannon Kai asks what he's going to do about it. He kisses his sister, saying he doesn't understand why dogs keep barking. The poor girl could only cry, completely helpless. That bastard took everything he had. Not long after a game called Divine Path appeared, they had a 100% realism feature, and soon enough, the in-being currency became valuable in the real world. But something no one expected happened. Guess what, guys? The game's attributes started affecting reality that should have been the perfect chance for Shenking to get his revenge. But he was dirt poor at the beginning. He couldn't play the game as soon as it launched, and also didn't have the resources to level up fast enough. He was constantly read and killed, and he had no chance to compete with that guy. And that bastard Taiyan Kai used the money he stole from his company to buy the best resources and attributes. He created a guild that turned him into an unmatched powerhouse, but Shen King knew that all of this belonged to him at the protagonist's house. Kai asks if the boy called him there to laugh at him surrounded by explosives. He says it's funny that he thinks something like this will kill him. But Shen King says that, at the very least, they'll find out together. He presses the detonator and says he'll see him in the next life. With that, the entire house explodes. The boy was determined his legs were gone, and so were his arms. But Kai asks why he even tried something like that. Shen King is shocked to see the guy standing there completely unharmed in front of him. Chan says that with Divine Path attributes, it's impossible for even a hair on his body to be hurt by something like this. He stomps on the boy's head and says that before he dies, he'll learn something. He was behind the death of his parents, and also the accident that caused him to lose his legs. And the most ironic part is that he's going to have a child with his sister, and the family's last bloodline will carry his surname. Shin King screams in desperation, but under the guy's foot, there's nothing he can do, even with his head stomped. He swore to himself that he would never forgive this back in the present. He has no idea why he was reincarnated. But he turns to his sister and tells her not to cry, that things will work out. He squee that in this life, he will protect her and everything their family work for. And of course, he will get revenge on that bastard Taiyan K. The problem is that he reincarnated after the accident, so he already doesn't have his legs. His chance clearly lies in the launch of Divine Path. It will take at least a month for people to discover that the game's attributes affect reality, and this is the window of time. He has to turn things around. He needs to take advantage while his money hasn't been frozen. Yet his sister asks why he's making faces. His leg hurts. She stands up saying she's going to call a doctor, but he says there's something more urgent. Then that confused, she asks. What it is, he asks for her help. Saying that he needs a gaming station 1 for the new game that's about to launch known as Divine Path, she still doesn't quite understand why he's asking for that. Suddenly, Shanae enters the room asking, since when his big brother has been sewing to games, he warns that it's dangerous for him to get addicted to games, especially because there's a company to take care of. Shen Shen quickly realizes that this bastard is trying to provoke him. However, he simply replies that now that he's crippled, there's nothing he can do but play games. Chiang Kai smirks at him. He then says that this game, Divine Path, is about to launch, but it's extremely expensive. If he's not mistaken, at launch there will only be 100 units, and the price will be more than 300 million. Shenkei responds that the company's money is his. Even if it cost 30 billion, he would buy one. His sister tells him not to react that way, while Tian Kei says that that's fine, since he wants it so badly. They'll buy one for him. Obviously, Tian Kai is happy with this news. The more time the boy wastes on the game, the easier it will be for him to take over the company. He then tells him not to worry, since he wants to venture into this world. He'll buy one for him and make sure he enjoys it. He needn't worry about the company, because he would take care of it. Suddenly, he pulls the sister to his side and says that Tom will be spending more time with him now. Meanwhile, Shen King swears he won't let that filthy bastard lay a hand on his sister, not understanding. Tai Kei says that's fine. He then leaves the room and shuts the door outside. He looks back in anger, wondering why that useless assassin couldn't kill this bastard. Next time, he'll bring a tank to make sure he explodes for good inside the room. Shen King tells his sister to transfer all the company's money into in-game currency. Additionally, she's to sell all the company shares and transfer that money too. She's a bit confused and asks if he's sick or what's going on. He tells her he's not and says, not to worry. He has a plan to change their future. 3 hours later, he's already paid an extra 200 million in shipping fees, and the setup is in his room. This boy is quick indeed. The ACAM is already creative, and he says, here I go with that. The system appears, and at least in the game, our boy has legs. If there's one thing he truly liked, it was the feeling of walking freely. The system asks for a character name, and he enters KO. Hawang, a bunch of characters, appears in front of him, and the system asks him to choose a class. Up to this point, everything is exactly as it was in his past life. He decides to pick the same class he's most familiar with. The Moi chooses the Ranger class man. What a miracle. He's not an assassin, right? I was already expecting the clay shake glitch. The system congratulates his choice, and now it's time to move on to the next step as he's a VIP user. And at the game's beginning, he'll receive an elven bloodline, since the Ranger class matches elves. He gets a bonus because of that. As a special user, he also receives a reward bookman. This kid is totally pay to win the book. Grants him a skill that allows him to detect weak points. He gets excited because just like in his past life, these are all abilities he's already mastered as one of the first 100 players. He also receives a special chest. Now this is something he didn't expect, as he wasn't one of the first. In his past life, the message says that the chest contains a rare talent, but will cost 50 million gold coins, and according to the conversion here, that's $7 million. What the hell? This chest is crazy. Expensive, but our boy already sold the company and immediately throws the money into his account. He knows that normal money will lose more and more value as game items gain prominence. Not to mention that talents are hard to acquire. So getting one now would be fantastic in his past life. He once obtained a talent that increased bleed damage, which helped him win countless battles. Spending the company's money, he manages to put 500 million gold coins into the game. He clicks yes to open the massive chest, which sends a golden beam of light into the sky. What he receives leaves him thrilled. It's a talent that can evolve anything, something he didn't even know existed. A giant. Al appears and announces that the talent has been equipped, and with that, he's ready to start his hunt. However, he's impressed because this talent shouldn't be obtainable. With just this money, he decides to open the ability to see what it does. Any item he acquires from monsters will always be of 1 rank higher, with a 5% chance of being 2 ranks higher. He also receives an active skill he can use once every 24 hours. It allows him to upgrade an item by 2 levels, or with a 10% chance by 3 levels, even though the talent only affects his items and not his attributes. He knows it will make him very strong in the game. He raises his arms as a gauntlet appears, and he says that he'll already have silver gear. Spending all the company's money was definitely going to be worth it. He's eager to get into the game and start killing monsters to get upgraded items. However, he has to be careful with the 24-hour ability. First, he has to find something with the potential to be evolved with all the preparations done. He clicks on the system, and the game's entrance appears. He excitedly says it's time to change his fate. The scene shifts to the starting village, and he's confused by how many rich people are in this game. He thought he'd be one of the first, but there's already a crowd, hunting chickens and leveling up others. See the chickens fleeing and immediately join in to hunt them. 2. It looks like there's a competition in the starting village for anything. But for our boy, it's idiotic to fight over something that's worthless. He needs to go straight for a goal that's worth it. For example, killing the starting zone boss and getting the first kill reward the system M&S him to be careful when entering a while of zone. But he flicks the system away, saying the only way to level up fast is to kill dangerous things before anything he needs to equip something. But when he opens his inventory, he's disappointed. The boy has a starter bow and cloth armor, and there's no way it's worth upgrading those things. The problem is that he needs to gain an advantage over others as quickly as possible. That's when he remembers that this ability can also evolve his talents. He raises his hands and uses it on himself. He spends the evolution on his elven bloodline. And Al appears with a crown of lightning and suddenly turns golden. The evolution is a success, upgrading it to royal elf bloodline. This increased his speed and accuracy, but the main bonus was a critical hit every 3 strikes. Just seeing his HP bar increase, he knows it was worth it with these attributes. It wouldn't be hard to start the game solo. Then here's a howl nearby looking over. He sees a level 2 forest wolf. Other adventurers, however, are already hunting and shouting, "That won't escape." Everyone is eager to level up quickly. Shen King hides behind a tree. Observing, these players are smart. They already know that forming groups and hunting stronger creatures is the fastest way. The only problem is that they don't understand just how realistic this game is. That's when the mage seems to notice something behind them and calls out to the group. Wolves always hunt in packs, and they were surrounded. The monsters leap at the group, and as soon as they're attacked, they panic. The pain from being bitten is far more realistic than they imagined. The group realizes it wasn't a good idea to have come so deep into the forest. One of them, with his head being eaten, says he'll see them at respawn. With that, everyone is killed. Shen King seizes the perfect opportunity. While they were being hunted, he would hunt from behind. He fires a precise arrow that pierces the wolf's head. With that, he makes his first kill. He levels up. from level 1 to level 2, gaining experience for his elven bloodline. He also earns 5 attribute points and wolf meat for someone playing solo items that restore health are perfect. But of course, the wolves notice his presence and turn 7 toward him. Shen King glances up at and sees that 3 of them are coming. Now that he's tested his damage, he feels confident, he turns and starts running. Activating his elven passive, which boosts movement speed by 100%. He sprints away, he runs to the edge of a mountain, leaps from one ledge to another, and leaves the wolves isolated. The combination of the elven bloodline and ranger class is perfect. He looks back and says they don't stand a chance. But then he's surprised the wolves don't even try. They just stand still staring at him. That's when he notices the system alert that he's entered the buffalo zone, seeing the creatures nearby. He realizes the wolves aren't following because this is a high-level area. Terrified, the wolves begin to retreat while checking the system and noticing that the buffalo are level 5. Someone calls him handsome. Turning around, he sees a group asking if he wants to join them. Man, these guys look suspicious. Even though there's a W in the group, he doesn't trust her for a second, especially since she calls him handsome again. When Luden call you handsome, you already know they have bad intentions. She says they're looking for someone to join their group to hunt buffalo and level up faster than everyone else. The McDonald's mage points out, though, that the boy is level 2 and would only slow them down. While Shen King is confused about why he's being rejected. They don't even give him a chance to respond. He turns and wishes them good luck staying. He's heading elsewhere. The blue gar guy asks if he's lost his mind, wanting to hunt alone. Our boy simply says he's a lone wolf and prefers to be more efficient. But they insist, warning him that the next area is even more dangerous. And even for the 4 of them, it would be risky. The chubby one asks if he knows about the death penalty. Shen King says he's a new, who's never died, so he has no idea about this so-called penalty. The guy explains that first, you lose half your gold and your equipment gets damaged. Not to mention the pain of death is incredibly realistic. But the worst part of all is losing half of the experience you've earned. Shen King doesn't seem very impressed by this information, but thanks them anyway. He waves goodbye to them, saying it was nice to learn from such professionals. The girl says maybe they should help the guy since it's dangerous for him to be alone. But McDonald's mage tells her not to bother if the adept wants to die. There's no reason for them to stop him. Sometime passes, and he heads into a cave where he finds a skeleton on the ground. This seemed to be the place he was looking for the area, with the strongest boss in the starting zone. Suddenly, a cave wall shakes and a creature opens its eyes. Clearly, enormous, our boy stands face to face with the level 10 giant king snake. He activates the ability to detect weaknesses. A weak point marker appears on the giant snake, which has 800 horsepower, while our boy has 1,300 horsepower. At level 2, he should normally only have around 200 horsepower. However, he hits an extra 1,000 horsepower due to his Royal Elf passive. With this, he's not afraid to face the boss. Bowing hand, the moaner locks eyes with him and lunges to bite as fast as it is. He's just as quick. He dodges to the side and draws his bow. The first arrow hits the mark, but it only deals 29 damage, far less than he expected. In the end, a boss is still a boss. He dodges again and thanks the fact that at least his speed is enough to avoid damage, although it's a strong monster. It's slow enough that he can chip away at its health. However, as he aims another shot at its neck, the monster blocks it with his tail. Now the monster is guarding the only weak point where he can deal damage. He decides to rely on speed and fires a volley of arrows. But the monster keeps defending, and he deals 0 damage. Eventually, he finds another opening and lands a shot for 58 damage. It's going to take longer than expected, but he's definitely faster than the monster. Suddenly, he notices something strange. The boss starts inhaling deeply, filling the cave with smoke. The poison begins to drain 10 HP per second, doing the math. He realizes he doesn't have much time left in this place worse. The snake climbs to the top of the cave, making it harder to land shots. But for Shen King, that's not enough. He draws another arrow, saying he's being underestimated. This time, his shot deals 116 damage straight to the neck. This kid really has the hacks? Well, at least in this case. Right? The monster falls to the ground, taking bonus damage since every third hit is a critical strike. He taunts the boss, asking how many more hits it can handle. The snake is starting to sweat, realizing this fight won't be so easy. A short while later, the monster is down to 597 HP, and Shen King is confident, even losing 10 horsepower per second. He's sure he'll win. His horsepower continues to drop, reaching 1,010. The problem is that the snake is making things even harder as he stands still. He's forced to dodge multiple tail attacks once the monster realized its attacks couldn't be avoided. It started striking more aggressively to prevent him from attacking. He dodges another strike and thinks that while the snake is smart, it's still underestimating his speed. Another arrow flies straight to the neck, dealing 200 critical damage. Strangely, he notices. The damage was even higher on the belly, even though the neck is the weak point for an instant. The belly seems to take more damage. He prepares another shot, saying that if that's the case, the snake will die even faster. But then he notices something strange. The monster seems to be smiling at him. The snake strikes the ground and a crack begins rushing toward him. The terrain becomes unstable and he loses track of the boss's position. Suddenly he falls to his knees. This time the poison is draining 20 HP per second, leaving him with only 600 HP. This is clearly a boss designed to be fought with a group of players. Considering the poison damage and climbing difficulty, he won't survive. At this rate, he pulls wolf meat from his inventory, saying he'll have to spend more than he planned. The meat restores 20 horsepower per second for 20 seconds. Although it's not enough, it'll buy him some time to climb to the top. The next 20 seconds will decide whether he wins this or not. He begins a park, where climb jumping from ledge to ledge, steadily working his way up. Finally, he reaches a position above the boss. He draws an arrow and lands a shot. The snake looks furious, as if it didn't expect him to make it out alive. The arrow hits the boss right in the eye, causing it to thrash and collapse to the ground. Shen King notices the snake trying to escape again, but he takes advantage of its exposed back to land. Another shot on the spot at the nape of... Fear tries to retreat, but Shen King fires shot after shot, with a final arrow piercing through its body, dealing 200 damage and bursting out of its mouth. With that, the monster finding drops to 0 HP. The legend is defeated, and the poison dissipates. The system announces that his achievement will be broadcast to the entire server and asks if he wants to hide his name. Shen King considers the option, but decides he's been hiding for far too long. Then he tells the system to make an announcement. With that, the player Kei Huang is congratulated for being the first to defeat the starter. Own boss. The people in the beginner village are confused, wondering how he did that when the game had just launched. Meanwhile, the other groups blame themselves for being so slow. Players with experience from other games can't comprehend how this is possible. Back with the blue-haired group, they're all exhausted. They manage to kill one buffalo and are convinced that must have been a super boss. The chubby guy says he's excited to see what the first kill reward is. Meanwhile, the other two guys are flushing, eager to get strong so they can impress the ladies. They're drooling, hoping to hear a compliment from the beautiful sister. But then the system pops up for them. It announces that Cal High W has earned 1,000 reputation points in a silver chest. But two can't believe there's actually someone stronger than them, because he defeated a boss several levels above him. Our boy gets extra experience jumping straight from level 2 to level 7. He gains 30 acute points and immediately puts them all into agility. Not having legs, really, gave this boy the dream of being fast. Well, for a class. Like his agility also boosts damage, so it makes sense with his attributes distributed. It's time to see what the boss dropped. Something unexpected happens. The 10 silvers that the boss was supposed to drop transform into 10 gold coins. Meanwhile, other players kill a buffalo and get a copper coin. One of the items shines brightly in his inventory, and he notices it has a golden glow. Maybe the second evolution triggered, but no, it's actually a crystal coin. A rare form of currency long extinct, but usable to buy mysterious items from certain NPCs. Shen King had heard of it in his past life, but had never seen one. The system collects the rest of the drops, and he checks his backpack. He obtained a silver-ranked snake sword, obviously for someone who uses a bow. It's useless, but at least it's worth some money. The most useful item is a silver scale armor that grants a 300 horsepower shield with a 300-second cooldown. He remembers that this armor normally doesn't have special effects. Maybe his passive ability is influencing the item's stats. The problem is that it requires level 10 to use. That's what he remembers, that the system gave him a silver reputation chess as part of the achievement. He asked the system to open it, praying, it's not another item for a different class. What he receives is the legendary Sem. Arrow, rain skill. A powerful aerial attack that's perfect for him, though. Once again, and can only be used at level 10. He's slightly disappointed, but also excited, because he'll become much stronger once he hits that level. Just then, someone in the cave calls out asking for help when he goes to check. It's a healthy-looking girl asking if he can save her. She hid in the cave to escape the giant snake. Her name is Miss Goo. He knows. She's a famous NPC who gives secret quests. He explains that the snake has already been defeated so she can leave, but she shows that her foot is injured. Putting a hand to her mouth, she asks if he can carry her. You think Shen King would be that cold, calculating protagonist, but no, he blushes like a fool. A second later, he's already carrying her outside once. Outside, she gently touches his face, saying she would have died if not for him. She promises that the next time they meet, she'll take good care of him. But he suddenly questions, next time, what do you mean, and drops her to the ground. She says there's not much she can offer to repay him unless he wants her body. She turns teasing him, saying he can have it if he wants. But he immediately cuts her off, telling her to stop, because that's not what he wants. She laughs, saying, it looks like he knows about the test. She pulls out a blade from within the mountains and offers it as a reward. It's a bronze dagger, and he immediately smacks it away. He glares at her, demanding she give him the secret. Confused, she asks what secret he's talking about. He says he wants the quest to save the 14-year-old girl who lives nearby. She can't believe this guy already knows about that quest, but she agrees, saying if that's what he wants, she'll give him the secret class. Quest. She stands up slowly and calmly. Meanwhile, our boy stands, their arms crossed, asking why she doesn't just hand it over already. Suddenly, she starts performing a dance so forbidden, it's